If you're the NFL, who are you going to award the contract to? I'm going to tell you right now, it probably ain't going to be ESPN. Bob Iger wants to build his legacy more than he wants to build any kind of shareholder value.
Renegade Online.
From a business side of things, this is Disney's next big threat. And I've told you this was coming. The linear side of broadcast for Disney is going downhill. I mean, if you're Disney and one of the biggest things that you have on ABC is those stupid women on The View, you have a problem, right? Because the only thing you've got bigger than the stupid women on The View, basically, are live sports broadcast. In particular, the NFL and the NBA. And the NBA's ratings have been steadily declining over the last several years. I can't imagine why. But when it comes to the NFL, that's still the crown jewel. Now, the thing here is that Netflix, like we saw a couple of months ago, Netflix ponied up a good bit of cash. They got their hands on 2 primo NFL games for Christmas Day, and they did pretty well with them. And Netflix, the last earnings call, Ted Sarandos and the guys, they were a little standoffish on, we're not going to commit to anything going forward when it comes to more live sports, but it's in the wheelhouse. It is being looked at. It's happening. Netflix evolves the strategy, pursuing NFL Sunday rights. Just 4 weeks after the earnings call in which it called the economics of full season rights in any sport, quote, extremely challenging. The dominant streamer is now publicly showing interest in pursuing a Sunday afternoon package with the NFL. Ooh. I definitely want the Sunday afternoon games, Netflix chief content officer Bela Bajaria said on the Town podcast from The Ringer and Puck. Bajaria was asked what package she would be interested in when NFL media rights became available. The current rights deals for the NFL, including Sunday afternoon agreements with CBS and Fox, expire after the 2033 season. Now, for those of you who watch it, CBS has the AFC, Fox has the NFC. They each have half the league, minus, of course, the Sunday night game that NBC gets, a primetime game, Monday Night Football, that's Disney, ABC, ESPN, and of course Thursday Night Football, a primetime game that Amazon has now each week. The league, the NFL, however, has an opt-out for most of its individual agreements after the 2029 season. Well, that's 4 years away. So the NFL right now, they have a deal with Fox, they have a deal with CBS, they have a deal with Disney, they have a deal with NBC, but they can get out of those contracts several years early if they want to. For example, if somebody else comes along and offers them a lot more money, like Netflix or Google, somebody else of that ilk. I wonder. It says the provisions will very likely be exercised, particularly as it continues to draw the NFL record-setting audiences. And opt-out on its ESPN deal, that would be Monday Night Football, follows the 2030 season. These comments show a stark and rapid pivot from those of Baharia's boss, Ted Sarandos, in January when he told analysts the company would continue to focus on big events such as Christmas Day games with the NFL, WWE Raw, FIFA Women's World Cup. If there's a path where we could actually make the economics worth for both us and the leagues, we would certainly explore it, Ted Sarandos said. But right now we believe that the live events business is where we really want to be. So here's the deal. Let's break this down. The earliest that they would, in theory, be on the hook for anything like this, if they were to strike a deal, would be after the 2029 and 2030 season. So we're talking 4 to 5 years away at this point. Netflix has a profitability margin that is just expanding tremendously each and every year. They are, at the end of 2024, they looked at about a little over 25%, if memory serves, maybe 28% profit margin, operating income for their enterprise. They're making, in total revenue, less than half the money of the entire Walt Disney Company. Theme parks, cruise ships, hotels, streaming, linear broadcast, movies in theaters. Netflix is making a little bit less than half of Disney is with nothing but streaming, and they're showing almost dollar-wise the same amount of profit as Disney. We've talked about this before. That's a real problem. This is also one of the reasons why we've seen Netflix stock price explode in the last few years. They're now over $1,000 a share, and they have a market cap. Basically, what the stock market thinks Netflix is worth when you add up the value of each individual outstanding share that's out there in the market is more than twice as much as the Walt Disney Company. And Netflix doesn't own a single hotel. They don't own anything in Orlando. They don't own a theme park anywhere. They don't own a massive theatrical distribution system. They don't own 7 $2 billion cruise ships or whatever. They don't own any of that. They have no actual real capital or real property apart from the building that Netflix operates out of that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe a few other support things like this, but they don't have a lot of real property. Disney's entire market cap, you could argue, is almost entirely based on the value of its real property and little else. If Netflix and Google and Amazon and Apple decide to get into a fight over NFL rights, and the NFL has the ability to opt out of the contracts early in 5 years, you bet your that's exactly what they're going to do. And if Fox and if CBS, Paramount especially, if they lose NFL contracts, if ESPN starts losing Monday Night Football, that is going to hurt a lot. The problem is that Disney, frankly, given the trajectory of its theme parks, given the trajectory of a lot of other things that are broken at Disney, like Marvel, like Captain America 4 and stuff like this, given the broken trajectory of the rest of things at Disney, I know it's 4 or 5 years away, and that's an eternity in the business world, okay, at least in terms of what can change. They're already looking ahead to these dates, but in terms of what can change, it's a long time. We may be looking at a very different landscape with live sports in a few years. It's already seeing that happen with the NBA, which I think was radically overpaid on this last go-round. The NBA is a dying sport, okay? The National Basketball Association is a dying sport. The ratings just continue to decline. Attendance at games continues to decline. It is a dying sport from that regard. The NFL, though, is still very, very viable, and everybody's going to want a piece of this, and I just don't think that I don't know if Disney is going to be able to fend it off. The problem is that Disney, especially if Bob Iger, God forbid, is still around in 4 or 5 years, which he will be as an advisor, right? That's what his contract says. But if that Bob Iger mentality of pay any price, bear any cost, put it on the backs of the shareholders because screw them, if that same mentality is at Disney, then they are probably going to get themselves into a bidding war that they might win, but is financially untenable for them. In other words, can they pay enough money and command the kind of advertising revenue to justify what they pay? Because you got to remember, and this is the kicker, Netflix in North America, we know, has 70 plus million subscribers in North America, maybe close to 80 now. I got to go back and look, but it's at least 70 million. Disney has about 45, I think. Significantly less than Netflix. Put it this way, Netflix has as many subscribers in North America almost as there are linear cable subscribers in North America. About 70 million households still have a cable subscription, a traditional linear cable subscription in North America. About the same number of people have a Netflix subscription. Okay, here's the thing. If you're the NFL and it's 4 years from now, let's just use the numbers from today. If you're looking at Netflix and Disney, and remember, by that point, now Disney still will have ESPN. There will probably be, maybe by 5 years from now, there might even be 10, 15, 20 million fewer North American subscribers for cable. It's on a sharp decline. That's the cord cutting, guys. And you're out there and you've got Netflix, which is on a growth trajectory. They're not shrinking, they're getting bigger every year. And you're looking at this going, well, wait a minute. Our NFL games will have instant access if we put this slate of games to Netflix on a Sunday. There might be by then 80, maybe 90, maybe 100 million different subscriptions for Netflix in North America versus Disney, that might maybe by then have 50 or 60 million. Who knows? Either way, it's likely going to be a lot less Good Disney likes to do now is they like to put Disney Plus with Hulu and ESPN and say, look at all this, but that's not how it works. This is why Disney is so desperate to get this ESPN thing going, this direct-to-consumer ESPN subscription service. The problem is this. If you're Disney and, okay, we'll put it on ESPN. ESPN's going to be a subscription service. What are they going to charge for ESPN? Most estimates put it at least $40 a month, and that's going to be with ads. These live sports games are always going to have ads. Don't think you're going to get rid of the ads. You won't. If Netflix is still going to be less than half the price, or maybe even $15 a month with ads by then, it might be a third or less the cost of the ESPN streaming service. And it's going to have more people on the ad tier, significantly more, probably 10 times more by then. And number two, it's still going to have nearly twice as many subscribers to it. If you're the NFL, who are you going to award the contract to? I'm going to tell you right now, it probably ain't going to be ESPN. Now, there's the nostalgia issue of the fact that Monday Night Football has been a thing, a big thing for many decades. But that doesn't preclude Monday Night Football from still going on. It'll be on Netflix. And if Netflix wants to, they could turn around and contract Disney and ESPN to do the production for it. Netflix presents Monday Night Football, produced by ESPN. I've been making that suggestion for a while because that may be one of the few things that Disney has left to hang on to. Keep that television broadcast company an actual financially viable entity over the long term, is to farm out the brand to other big tech companies like Netflix and Google and Amazon to actually produce their live sports content, because Disney absolutely financially will not be able to compete with these guys in the next 5 to 10 years. It's just not there. Disney is a stagnant company. It's a stagnant brand. And if they're wise right now, they're reading the tea leaves and going, if we don't adapt, we're going to die. If we don't accept what is, we're going to die. They can either fight what's changing around them, or they can adapt to try to become a viable part of it going forward. The problem is when you have a guy like Bob Iger running the company, he's a very stubborn old fart. He's a very narcissistic, stubborn old fart. And Bob Iger wants to build his legacy more than he wants to build any kind of shareholder value for Disney stockholders. And that's going to continue to be the problem until that man is completely gone.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.